Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about, obviously we know your story because we've known you for a while, but tell our community a little bit about your story and your journey and how it kind of started with Colton.
Now?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I was 20 weeks pregnant, had a fairly normal pregnancy with Colton when we went to go find out his gender. And we were in the room and she said it was a boy and we were all excited because, Mark really wanted a boy. So then they said after all the excitement was over, they're like, oh, well, the doctor needs to speak with you. So we went into the separate room and we had my daughter with us and he comes in and he says, how's your pregnancy been going? Have you been feeling different or anything? And I was like, no, why? And he's like, well, your son has spina bifida. And so we were like, we didn't know what spina bifida was. So we were like, all like, just kind of like shocked and scared. And, we were trying to hold it together because we had our 6-year-old daughter with us. So I tried to get like information from him. And the only thing he really said to me was, well, you could go for genetic testing or, there's always the option of abortion. So we went home.
All right there at the gender ultrasound. So look how much like such highs and lows.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, oh boy. And then it's like, oh, the doctor wants to talk to you. And then it was like, oh, your son has this. And it was scary. So it was quite the day. And we got home, we kind of like regrouped. And I think my parents took my daughter and we started looking online. Which is a really bad idea.
Exact same thing.
Oh, yeah.
We actually our story is almost exactly the same. Like it's gender ultrasound. They told us right then and there. It was like this like death sentence kind of conversation instead of like, hey, this is what's going on. We'll talk more. It was just it was just like instant. And then we just went straight home and started Googling. Like, that's the first thing you do. Yeah.
The weird thing about it is you would think like, a doctor that deals with babies a lot and, what are they called? Obstetrician?
Yeah.
I can't even think of the word. You would think that they would be educated on such a common birth defect.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like he wasn't. And it was scary. So,
well, now we know it's common, right? Because we're in this community. But I feel like at that time, it seemed like I'd never heard of it. It was such an uncommon thing that it was not something I'd ever heard of. It wasn't even, it was such like, it was like a foreign word, like a foreign language. When they said it, I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. And of course, we use the word spina bifida, but they kept saying myelomeningocele. And I was just like, that's like the word is like this long and I've never ever heard it before. And I remember thinking like, oh God, I have to Google this. Can you write it? I think we said, can you write it down?
Yeah, we did.
I can't spell that.
Milo.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
So how, I know for like I said, like my story is almost verbatim the same exact as yours. It's, you did that, then you Google everything and then you start seeing all your specialists and then everything kind of starts to snowball. And from that point until you give birth, it's kind of this whirlwind and everything's just kind of, I think for me, it was just, I don't even remember the rest of my pregnancy.
It was a very stressful time.
Yeah.
For sure.
So how did you react to all of that handling? Like, did you have a good support system during all of that time?
Yeah. I mean, we're lucky, my parents are extremely supportive as well as Mark's parents. And we have a really close family, a lot of really close friends. And we were also really lucky enough to speak with, kind of not like a family friend, but someone who was my mother-in-law's doctor who transferred to Connecticut Children's, and he's the head neurosurgeon there. So we went to go speak with him, and he's like, children with spina bifida are the happiest people. They're so happy. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of. And, he really just like reassured us. And, I left there being like, okay, we can totally handle this.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like made everything feel better. And I just stayed off the internet for the rest of the day.
We did too, until we reached out to you guys. I think that was probably the next time we got on the internet. So like having that support system, I know for us, like having a sibling, an older sibling, because again, our story is probably so similar. Like, this was our second child. We had an older daughter, and that all I kept thinking to myself was I was already a little nervous to like bring in another child, and because I was giving Annabella so much attention, and she was just like, she was our world. And I kept thinking, and I know a lot of parents even with typical children, think like when you go to have your second child, you think, how can I even have enough time or energy for another child? Even when you're planning it, you're like, I don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I have enough energy. So then when you add anything into the mix, like going through a pregnancy like this, I think for me, it was, what am I going to do now? Like, how am I going to give Annabella the attention and the energy that she needs? You know, did you have a similar experience like that, having an older sibling?
Yeah, I mean, she was about 6 years when Colton was born. And, you know, she had all that attention for all those years.
Yeah.
And from everyone. So, you know, I remember at the time my parents kind of like took her and watched her, and then, you know, took care of her for a little bit while we were going back and forth to the hospital. But I do remember like after he came home, she kind of like regressed and just like was very like emotional. And I think it was like a lot of stress. And I think our attention was so much on like Colton and like his surgeries and like him, you know, his like getting casted for his legs and stuff. All the attention was there. We were giving Kaden attention, but, you know, I didn't really think, oh, this is probably really stressful on her too. You know?
Yeah.
You're not really thinking about that at the time.
You don't really have the energy to. I think that's like, and it's okay. Like as much as it feels like, I know now, like Bella's older, and now I look back and I think like, did we make a mistake and did we drop any of her needs? Like, did anything drop off in that way? But sometimes I have to remember, like, I think that even as a typical parent, that just happens when you have a second child. That first child's just not going to get the full attention anymore. And that's okay. You know, there's a reason why, you know, there's that first child syndrome and the second child syndrome. Like, you just all get your own different needs, and it's okay that happens. I think it happens a little more obviously when there's a need with a second child, but I think it just makes them stronger. I think it makes her more compassionate. I definitely see that with Bella. She's so much more compassionate with younger kids. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that her brother, you know, she grew up with watching a younger sibling just need more in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, she's like a natural, like, mother figure.
She's very maternal.
Yeah. So, but even in that, you kind of see this transition now where when she was younger, she was vocal about it. You know, you give Eddie more attention, and she would say it. And so I know a lot of my concentration was to try to make it not equal, but make sure we are, you know,
to listen to that.
Yeah. Giving them their own respective attention. But now it's kind of funny because, you know, we've been in this lifestyle for 8 years with Eddie. So every day is a typical day. And there's not a lot of, you know, new developments and stuff like that. So we have typical lives, but now it's kind of like the roles are reversed, where it's like Bella can stay up later. He's like, why can I do that? It's like, you can do that when you know you're that age. And, you know, we gave you a lot of attention, you know, like all this fun stuff. It's like, cause we always use that to rationalize to Bella. She'd be like, oh, why do you do that? Well, when you know, it was just you, we did all this stuff with you too. So it's kind of funny now. It's like, you know,
I know we almost never do something that's like just Eddie. It's usually like, now we're giving so much more attention to Annabella. And I think there's all the time he's like, you do this all the time for Bella. And I'm thinking, there's so many years we did everything just for you. We do a little bit for Bella. And just the other day we said, when things calm down, we're going to take Eddie to New York City, because we did that for Bella when she was younger.
Yeah.
And Bella was like up in arms. I can't believe you're taking Eddie to New York without me.
New York City?
How dare we?
Broadway without me?
Yeah, how dare we? I know that now your older siblings is, you know, there's a bigger age gap between your two. Do you find it easier or harder to prioritize like their needs?
They definitely have different needs. Right now, my daughter doesn't really want to be around us that much. She's a junior in high school. So, you know, every once in a while, you know, before this,
I know.
Yeah, junior. I know. This whole COVID thing started. Like, every once in a while, she'd be like, "You want to go get a coffee?" Or, you know, so we would take a drive or something like that. And Colton doesn't care. He's just like playing Fortnite with his cousins or something. So it's a little bit easier now. He doesn't really seem to care that much about that kind of stuff. But I feel like my daughter does more than him. Yeah.
That's funny. It's funny how that changes. I feel like they go through like waves. Like, one of them cares about being around us and the other one doesn't, and then vice versa. And I'm always like, who and then there's times where both of them want nothing to do with us, or both of them want. I'm like, oh, all of a sudden everybody cares about hanging out with us today. It's so funny. Like they just
wait. Bella won't want to be with you in a couple of years.
She already does it. She spends all her time in her room, and we're like, "Oh, hi, we're here. Did you want to get up today and hang out with us?" And she's just like, "Get away from me."
I try to make myself relevant, like as much as possible.
You're not. He thinks he's relevant.
Oh no, I
so
feel
over it.
like because she'll do that. She'll act like she's embarrassed by me, but she'll always just take the phone around and like she'll literally set it up where like I'm there too. Be like, okay.
Her new thing, because now that we're like so quarantined, she just FaceTimes with everybody, like her friends.
Yeah.
But it's on FaceTime 24/7. So I'm learning that we have to be very cautious. Like we'll be fighting and screaming at each other. And then I'm like, are you FaceTiming with your friend? Like they're definitely your friend's parents are hearing us in the background, like yelling and bickering.
That happened to us the other day too. We were having a disagreement about something and Colton was on FaceTime and I was like, they can hear us. Oh. Like, because it's like, I'm so over the whole FaceTime thing and we have no privacy.
I'm like, can you just, or she'll do something.
Wait.
I'm yelling
Ashley,
at her. I'm
you
like,
said a disagreement. What? That's the cutest way to say. We're having an argument. No, we weren't. Yeah. Okay.
I don't. We were like yelling at each other. We were just like going back and forth.
We're bickering all the time.
Yeah.
Bickering. The banter.
We call it bickering. Anyone on the outside is probably like, what is wrong with them? Are they okay? Yeah. We have a loud volume in this house at all times. It's never quiet.
If there was a director to direct our lives, it'd be Quentin Tarantino.
Good choice.
The best. Yeah. Just because of the great banter.
It's a little aggressive.
Yeah. And how violent it is.
Like our dogs last night, they almost murdered each other.
Oh, after they murdered the bunny.
They caught a bunny and then they fought over it.
Yeah, they were trying to they were fighting over the bunny.
It wasn't good.
Was it dead?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I had to help Eddie because he was a little sad over it. He's a man.
I skinned a rabbit.
So, I mean, Colton's older now. I mean, I should start with saying how we met. We kind of found each other in a support group, right, on Facebook. Kind of reached out. We reached out because we went through the same transition you went through. We started Googling everything under the sun, which was a huge mistake. And then for me, I'm such a type A personality. I have to know everything about everything. And the best way to do that was to find a support group because I was learning that just Googling was only getting me in trouble. And I found the support group online, which was a great community. But I also was finding that, and actually I think Eddie was the one that said to me, the people that are going to be on the support group are the people that are looking for support. Like the people you're going to talk to are people looking for support. So you're not finding the exact balance. And it's true. Like I'm still part of those support groups now and we're living in such a typical life. I feel like Eddie's doing so well and everything's going great that we're not speaking up on those support groups now when someone might have just gotten pregnant or just had a baby. And I'm realizing that they're not seeing our life. They're not seeing how Eddie's doing now at 8. But you kind of were doing that at that time. So I had noticed Colton on there and you just posting things and realizing, oh, okay, Eddie could have this more typical life and it's not this death sentence that these doctors were giving us.
Told you.
And I think that was a little bit easier for me to kind of say, oh, okay, I think I'm just going to reach out. And then finding out that you were also local to where we were was huge for us because I think we also were thinking it just wasn't as real when no one was in our area. And so we went to, was it ice cream or frozen yogurt?
Frozen yogurt.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, where do we go?
To this day, Bella's like, when can we go for frozen yogurt? I'm like, I don't think there's frozen yogurt places anymore. They're just not.
No, I think that place is still open.
Is it really? I don't think we've been there since that day.
Wait, pause. I thought we went to Mountain View, so.
No, we went to that frozen yogurt place right by their house.
I forgot the name of it. Yogurt City.
Yeah. I didn't know that place was still open. That's so crazy.
Oh, what? Right?
You don't need to. Yeah. So we went to the frozen yogurt place, and that was the coolest thing, I think, for us to see. I mean, Eddie was really small. I think he was only 2 at the time. But for us as parents, I mean, it's cool to see Eddie, and it was cool for Eddie to see Eddie interact with someone else who had the same, and still it is, when we still run into people who have the same disability as Eddie, it's exciting. But even so, at that point, it was the first other family we had spoken to that got to the same experience. And your guys' experience was so similar to ours, which was really exciting because they do call it the snowflake disorder or disease. I don't know why they call it a disease, but because everybody's is so different. But it was nice to kind of talk to someone that's been through the same thing and know, oh, okay, there's, I think the other thing that I remember, like Mark saying, like, life is kind of calm now. It does get easier. You're going to have less doctor's appointments. That was like the most key thing to hear. Because at that point, we were in the thick of OT, PT, all the therapies, all the doctor's appointments every week. I wasn't even working yet because there just was no time in the day. So to hear that, like, there was a light at the end of the tunnel where your days just get normal again was really nice to hear.
Told you.
Yeah. The first couple of years, all I remember is just like going to the hospital and all these appointments. It was like so crazy.
Yeah, not knowing if you're going to have another surgery. And I remember also someone saying, like, there's going to be a day where you'll not be wondering, are we going to have a surgery tomorrow? Like, or be scared of a shunt revision or be scared. Like, I'm not scared every day anymore. Like,
yeah.
If he gets a fever, I'm like, oh, you might have a cold. Whereas before, I'm like, if you have a fever, I have to call the hospital right now.
Yeah. Well, now we're like, wait the 24 hours, go through all the same things. Like a normal child. Yeah.
Typical child.
Drink more water, like try to flush out.
Let's get some cranberry juice for this kid.
Yeah.
So we can flush this out.
More typical. So with Colton transitioning, he's older now, he's transitioned to like middle school, I'm assuming. Is he at middle school age, which is crazy.
So sad.
Oh my gosh.
How, for us, we're a little bit behind you, but I know milestones are big in the special needs world. And for any parent, it's a big transition to move to middle school. I know with like even our daughter, it was a big transition. What are your thoughts on that? Like transitioning Colton into like the middle school world or the older kid world?
So I'm a little nervous currently only because of our situation. We had a neuropsych eval at the clinic in the beginning of the year. And there was all these things that they're stating to have him do, like have a visit, see what's accessible. I don't think the doors, a lot of them have the handicap button that presses to open. So like, I'm a little bit nervous about him getting around accessibly.
How is that? How are we at a point in 2020 that schools don't have doors that open accessibly at this point? Like, that's just crazy.
It's crazy because his school he's in now, going into 5th grade, there was a door and they had to put in something for him.
And there's only really one in the whole town. It's not like they can go to a different school.
I know. It's really made his elementary school kind of open their eyes as far as accessibility. They actually installed a accessible playground too.
Well, that's not something that's required. That's just an extra.
Yeah. Yep, that was an extra.
Although it should just
that was nice.
I mean, I feel like families should be getting like awards for this. I mean, unfortunately, like you're the guinea pig family for this town to understand and have their eyes opened to this whole, the whole situation itself. And it's just like,
well, the crazy thing is too, he's not the first child to be using a wheelchair. There's no way going into a school system. You're not in a small town.
Right.
Yeah, I know. And I had that conversation and I was like, maybe he's the first kid in a wheelchair with a manual wheelchair.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which seems even easier to move around versus someone with a power wheelchair.
Well, no, or you can take it to the only other people that have been at that disability level where they were, bound to a wheelchair are like more deeply into special education where they have a personal care.
Well, that's my guess is that they just weren't,
you know what I mean?
In school.
Or that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and that's been the huge thing as far as like 4th grade and 5th grade, they've kind of taken away his para as far as being with him the entire time and getting him a little bit more independent. So when he goes to middle school, he has that independence and he doesn't need someone hovering over him. Now, that's been like the biggest thing.
How do you feel about that? Like, was that something so I know that's like a big deal with parenting. Like we have talked to other parents and I think this is something I've noticed. I've come up to head with other parents, not like an argument wise, but like a head with when it comes to IEPs. I think there's two sides of the coin where some people think get everything you can get for resources and services. And then the other side is like, I know our view is
strive for independence. So not that I don't want him to be able to get services if he needs services, but I also want him to be able to use the least amount possible so that he can, I want a balance. So if he doesn't, if he needs services, let's get him services, but I also want him to be able to work on his own throughout the day without those services, because when he gets out of school and he's got to work in the real world, there isn't going to be a one-to-one at his job.
Yeah. Yep.
So do you ever, like, you know, how involved have you been in that process, and how much of it has been like your direction versus the school's direction? Have you come up to any fights with that?
Yeah, I mean, his school's been really good. Like, IEPs are never really stressful for us. They never really have been. They've always been really willing to work with us and what his needs are. You know, we've taken away like OT. He only gets like PT once a week. You know, as far as like educational wise, he gets pulled to like a math group because, like, I mean, math is hard.
Yeah, for all of us.
Math is hard.
We should all be in a math group.
We should all be in a math group.
Real quick for the dads that are listening, what's IEP stand for?
Individualized education plan.
Cool. Yeah. All right, you're welcome,
go
guys.
Me.
Go surprise your wife. Maybe I learned what an IEP is today. All right, continue. I'm sorry.
That's funny. Yeah. So, I forgot what I was talking about.
Sorry.
Darn it. I'm sorry.
But like, as far as like middle school and, you know, middle school years are really tough. I'm just concerned about him, you know, the whole stuff that you normally go through during the middle school years and how kids can be such jerks.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about that. So,
yeah, I think that's any parent's concern, really. Like, moving into that transition, you know, if you have any disability or needs or anything that you're coming into any that's a struggle at all, I think moving into middle school is scary, especially nowadays. I mean, not to sound like an old person, but I definitely feel like middle school is more like high school was when I was younger. Like, just watching my daughter go through it, I'm like, what is happening? I don't feel like it was like this when I was there. I feel like I was just much more naive and innocent in middle school than, and I was like a troublemaker, but I feel like what my awareness was of things was much more innocent and like naive, and what they're aware of is just like way beyond where I was.
Yeah, I just think, you know, the internet and like, you know, all the stuff, technology, and that has a huge thing to do with it, because kids in middle school now do not look like the way kids in middle school were when I was in middle school. Like they're so much older looking. It's like, what?
I know. I was like looking at some photos of myself in like middle school and high school, and I was like, I look like a baby. I mean, I still feel like I look like a baby, but I looked so young. And then I was just like, look how I threw in there that I still look like a baby.
You do.
As I was like in the mirror this morning, like looking at all my wrinkles.
What wrinkles?
And that was great job, Eddie. Good job.
Good job, Eddie.
Well, let's not forget, like, we're kind of a society that 200 years ago, or like 150 years ago, you were 16 years old, you were married off, you had a family, you were independent. And here we are, like, look at these 14-year-olds. It's like, yeah, and in 2 years they would have their own family, actually, if you go back in time.
Bella won't be. There are 16-year-olds having families.
Yeah, I know.
Hello.
I know.
Bella won't be that one. But I can tell you that right now. Okay, so transition a little bit and chat about the big things that Colton's done and what he's doing and what you guys have kind of done with him. So if everyone doesn't already know, we all know that, you know, the big topic kind of today's that we wanted to kind of transition today's show into is inclusive modeling and what Colton does with that. So how did you get, Colton is I guess we call it inclusive model. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, like a diversity model.
Diversity model. Oh, I like that.
Is that what you said? That's what she said first. Oh, you said that first.
Did I?
Yeah. You were like, I think they're called diversity models. And I was like, well, look that up.
It's just a cool title. I mean, he's a model. Let's be honest. He's a model who models diversity clothing, right? He's a model like everybody else.
Yeah, we hang out with
but
models.
how did you get Colton? He gets to hang out with models. Okay, you're out. How did you get Colton into modeling to start?
Yeah, so I think when he was 3, he did some stuff for Shriners for their Dunkin' Donuts thing to raise money.
Or free coffee.
Yeah. And so he really enjoyed it and liked it. So the funny thing is I don't remember. It was during one of my surgeries. I had entered him into a parent magazine contest, I guess. So while I was recovering, I got a phone call from someone from Parents Magazine, and they were like, "Oh, your son won one of the 10 most cutest kids, and we're going to bring you to New York." I like almost hung up on them.
I mean, he is one of the 10 most cutest kids. Let's be honest. They haven't even talked to him yet. They just looked at him.
He was best in show, though. He was best in show.
If you have a conversation with him, he'd be number one for sure.
Oh. Yeah, he was still kind of young, and so I was like, okay, I gave my email address so I could like check out their email address and stuff, make sure it's legit.
Yeah,
and it was.
I know, because those things are everywhere. I feel like
they are, and it just like at the time, I just like I don't remember signing them up. It must have just been like I was drugged up after my surgery or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm constantly getting model offers in the mail too. Yeah, you know, I just put them away or burn them, so you don't have to even worry about that. All right.
Shut up. You're so stupid.
So he went to New York, and he kind of like, you know, he did it. He wasn't one of the cover person, but we met some people and kept in touch with them. And then a couple years later, I had actually maybe that year, I emailed an agency in Boston, and they pretty much wrote back to me saying they don't need children like Colton.
Oh,
so that was fun.
So they don't want a cute.
But they were like
dirty
people
blondes.
don't really use.
Dirty blondes.
They're like, people don't really use kids in chairs, you know, for their ads. So that was interesting. So yeah,
obviously it's not true.
I kept the email because it just like totally pissed me off. So
yes, you should keep it. I feel like that's so important to keep it too, though, just to show like
Yeah, not that I want to blow up their spot, but who is it from?
No, I feel like you should send them everything Colton's been doing too, and just be like, yeah, F you.
Yeah. I don't want to be petty. I was going to do that one day, but then I was like, no.
Yeah, they're already watching him. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they probably saw it. But then I was online on Facebook, and I saw Runway of Dreams. And so I had reached out, and it was when they first started. And the founder invited us to New Jersey. And then he did a little runway show there, which turned into being in their first gala runway show. And so he did that. And then from there, he did like the Tommy Hilfiger ad. And after he did that, one of the ladies from Parent Magazine reached out, and she's like, there's this lady who wants to start a diversity division. She's like, why don't you start, you know, working with her? So we did.
When he did the Tommy Hilfiger ad, were they already doing clothing targeted, like disability clothing, or was this before that?
No, it was probably like their second season. Okay. So there was a first season, and then he did like spring.
So pretty early.
There was like a winter season. Yeah. So they had already started that, and that was like in 2017. And since then, you know, there's been a lot of like places like Target's doing it, Zappos, Atman, I believe, is another one.
Yeah,
I believe they're called adaptive lines of clothing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No. For our listeners, you have to help the people.
You're right.
Man.
They're adaptive. I know. I don't forget my words.
We're a tool, not a tool.
So it's just been really interesting to see that, like, you know, not all places, but, you know, a lot of people are picking up that this is like a need for the disability community.
Yeah. So, I mean, Colton now has been we've seen him everywhere. He's been on the runway for New York Fashion Week, right? Eddie lost his mind. He's so excited. We were watching Netflix and the movie Happy, and Colton was on for like a brief second, and Eddie was like, that's Colton! I saw Colton! So excited. We had to play it back like 10 times.
Okay, and so then I did the same thing when we went up to the cabin and we were watching. I was like, oh, we got to watch this series. And so I made everybody watch that series.
The whole series for that 10 minutes that Colton was on.
It's the first episode, so everybody had to see it. And I was like, I know that kid.
Yeah, like 1 second we were there for like 8 hours in the cold.
I'm riding those coattails.
He looked adorable.
It was awesome.
And then obviously the right now famous Target ad, which, you know, for us is exciting. Obviously, it's exciting for kids. I mean, if anyone doesn't know at this point, you've been everywhere. You've been on the Kelly Clarkson show. I feel like it's been gone viral all over Facebook. That Colton was in a Target ad, and he's been in a few Target ads. He's on the website. He's everywhere, but he was in the Target store ad, which now no one can go see because Targets are closed. But if you can go back to Target.
Targets are open.
Are they?
Yeah.
I haven't left my house.
Well, I've been doing curbside pickup though.
Oh, really?
Going in there.
Yeah, I haven't left my house, so we don't know we don't know anything. We just order home.
It's brutal.
Eddie's been out a couple times. So it went viral because Ollie saw Colton, and it made quite an impression, which I think it did on a lot of kids, probably not just Ollie. It definitely did for us as well. Even at the second level, because we know Colton. Every time little Eddie sees Colton, he like freaks out and gets super excited. But I know that the conversation's been a lot around obviously kids getting to see other kids represented out there. But I also want to kind of mention or talk about how big it is for parents to see their kids represented out there. I don't think that gets talked about as much. And I think it's a really big deal. I know for myself, Eddie's just a kid. And for a second, he's like, oh my God, that's Colton. That's so exciting. Oh, he has a wheelchair like me. And then at 8, he's moving on with his day. I mean, like he's noticing something. And so that's making an impression for me as a parent. Have you gotten, like, what does that feel like for you as a parent to see Colton represented and making such an impression to kids and parents alike?
I think it's been pretty cool because when I first looked at the picture, obviously I saw like the expression on Oliver's face looking up at Colton, but what really got me was what the mom said. And she said, it's the first time I've seen that he noticed that he is different because he never saw someone in a chair like him. And so I put myself in her shoes and I was like, oh, that must have been like really an emotional moment for her because, he was almost 2. He was still, he was in a chair, uses a chair, but, he's like 2.
Yeah.
And
he's just like, to him, he doesn't know any different.
Yeah. So like for him to realize that someone like him, was up on a Target ad, I just thought it was like really emotional that the mom was able to capture that moment. And
I think that's actually really important to say. I think a lot of people on the outside of our world forget that there is a moment that happens where, for a while our kids, their life is their life, so they don't know any different. I think that for years, Eddie, people would say, oh, this, or Eddie does so brave, or Eddie. I'm like, Eddie doesn't know any different. The way Eddie goes to the bathroom is the way Eddie goes to the bathroom because he doesn't know that there's a different way.
There's no frame of reference to say it's different. And
then there's just some point every once in a while where something happens at school or something happens in life that just clicks and, that reminds either us as a parent or Eddie that he's different in some way. Maybe not hugely different, but something's different. And then there's a conversation that happens. And every time it kind of does break your heart a little bit, the fear that you have for them that they are hurting a little bit. And it's like a twofer, like it's uplifting that he got to see someone like himself. But at the same time, it's like, it is emotional that you're like, oh, there's that moment that he realized that he's a little bit different in a way that's different than everybody else. I think that seeing Colton in these ads is only going to make everything more normal for everybody outside of our world, where if we have more inclusion, in ads and on TV and everything, then it isn't going to be that where if we're walking through the mall, we're just walking through the mall because they've seen that on ads. Yeah. They've seen that on TV. They've seen that everywhere.
It becomes the societal norm and stuff like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I think for all of us that are not famous like Colton, we're kind of, I'd be curious, like.
We call you people normies.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how normal we are though. What, I know like there's a lot of TV shows about like, what is that one where all the models, what is it called?
Oh, Project Runway?
Yeah, Project Runway or all those ones. And they show like the
Why
day.
Why are you looking at me like I would know that?
I don't know. There's like a day in the life, you can kind of see a day in the life of a model and what they do and all those things. What's a day in the life of a diversity model? Is it different? Is there roadblocks when it comes to that? Have you seen any challenges for Colton when he's, setting up for a New York Fashion Week? Has he been on the runway with models that are not diversity models? And has there been any difficulties, or have you seen like it work really, really well?
Yeah, I mean, when he was in both times when he was in New York Fashion Week, there was, it was inclusive. There was, children who had some disabilities and others that didn't. So it was like a mix. It wasn't just, all diversity models on the runway. And I think as far as like, whenever he has like a shoot or something like that, I think people are really like good at making sure that, it is accessible. So, I mean, we've never really hit any roadblocks as far as like that. Maybe the biggest one is getting a wheelchair taxi in New York City.
Yeah.
Actually flagging one down. That's like the biggest roadblock because I don't want to drive too far in. Like I'll go only so far.
Oh, that actually makes sense. Actually, we were I think about that all the time. Like when we went to Boston once and Eddie we didn't have his wheelchair yet. We just had a stroller, and just thinking about bathrooms.
Yeah.
And like trying to, there's no changing tables anywhere in Boston. Like that's like impossible. And so I remember thinking like, how would we ever do this if we had a wheelchair, and like trying to find places to go to the bathroom? Because like, as you know, like we go to the bathroom like a million times a day, and we need to go when we need to go. There's not like, we need a public restroom now. And so, do you like, he wants to go to New York so bad. He's begging because he's convinced that Spider-Man is in New York. And we need to find him. And so he asks every day, like, where do you think in New York we'll find him? Like,
he's in Manhattan.
What corner of the street? Like, he's literally asked me, like, what street corner, what buildings do you think we'll find? I'm like, I don't know. We'll just see.
Well, first of all, you just hang out in Times Square. Right. Hang out in Times Square.
Bring $30 to pay the guy.
At some point, he'll swing by.
Yeah, him and 40 of his other friends.
What I'm thinking is we just take him and we go, there he goes, right where he's not looking. And he'd be like, dude, you missed him. And then we'll get a picture already put on our phone and stuff and be like, I got a picture. Plan. Oh, yeah.
But
I
have a lot of time on my hands.
Do you just do like, do you just like Uber to find a vehicle that like has a big enough trunk? Or are you like, how are you finding a taxi? Are you just hailing a taxi? What are your...
sometimes I have to make do. Like his wheelchair will sometimes fit in the back of like in a trunk if the taxi's big enough. I refused to Uber in New York City because once some guy went in circles and I was watching him, and then it was $70 later. So I will not Uber in New York City.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. But I'll do a taxi, but it's like crazy because you only see so many wheelchair van taxis and there's always someone in it. So So yeah, I do what I can, but
makes for a long day.
That's probably like the biggest roadblock that we hit.
Yeah, so we should plan well.
Yeah, definitely plan well, plan ahead.
Have the adults.
I normally just drive in
the children. If there's more adults than kids, you're all set.
I think that's a parenting thing in general.
Right.
I've learned always have the adults outnumber the kids. Like you can't have we've done it where there's like 2 adults, 2 kids. It's not enough adults.
No. It's not. You need a third. You need a wrangler.
You need someone to like balance it out. So Colton seems to have some big ideas all the time and drive to do them. How does he get that, do you think? Like, where does that come from?
I don't know. I've always just kind of like treated him like he's not really different and, boost his confidence and stuff he can't do and show him what he does well with other things, even though he gets frustrated sometimes. But I just think he's always been like a really happy-go-lucky kid. I think it's just his nature, and he comes up with ideas, and he's really caring, and he's been a really easy kid to raise, I think. And yeah, I just think it's his nature. He gets it from me.
No, you guys have, I think you both.
No, don't, man, come on. Take credit when credit's due.
Just joking.
Children are a product of us,
Mark's good too, but
you guys,
all right.
I think you guys have good, positive attitudes. You guys are also, we have like crazy kids and we're crazy people. Like we have a loud household. Our kids are just loud kids. I think, it is a product. Like, I mean, in a way it is a product of like who you are. Like, I mean, we're okay with that. Like we're just like loud, messy household, loud, messy kids. I think, you guys are just like calm. I always think like anytime we're stressed messy. Out, I'm like about what's going on with like anything I'm like, I'm just going to text Ashley and find out. Like, cause I'm like, I know that I'll get like some like normal, calm advice, makes calm sense, because I think you guys do have that like grounded. You guys are grounded, and you guys have had I mean, just even separate from Colton's stuff, you've had your own medical, like I think you've had to be grounded just to kind of get through it all. And I think that's a great attitude to have. And it's gotten you guys really far. I think Colton's probably picked up on that and just learned that he can probably do whatever. I mean, he's doing it. I love his daily positive affirmations. It's like my favorite part of the day.
Yeah, we had a decorate your street contest type thing. So I was like, I'm going to put a positive like thing in the window. So he really liked it. And he's like, can I make videos about positive things every day? So I'm like, I
love that it's his idea. Like, can I make positive video? I'm always like, guys, do you want to do this? They're like, no. I'm like, you want to do this? No. Like I was trying to get Bella to sing. She's not. I'm like, why don't you sing on Facebook every night? She's like, no.
Like, no, she has a beautiful voice.
She doesn't want to do anything.
She's all right. Don't, I believe in, like you got to praise them enough to make them, famous, but not enough, not too much to where they're like, become like a pedophile or something.
I don't think that she needs to be famous.
You got to find that middle ground of, praise. So she's okay. She's all right.
Stop.
She's okay.
So this is something we're going to ask all our guests. It's kind of cheesy, but if you had 30 seconds to speak to our community, what advice would you give them?
My biggest advice is make sure you have, a good group of friends behind you. That's really important. Obviously family is really important, but friends is also really important because there's stuff you can talk about to them that sometimes you don't really want to talk to family about. When we had Colton, we lost some friends that we don't really talk to as much. So that's like really common. So just, I would say, make sure that you have a good group of friends and, just be patient with yourself and take one day at a time. And yeah.
I think that's actually super important that you said that. I think it happens to everybody, or it seems to have happened. Everyone I've ever spoken to, I think it's happened to them in this community that like you do, and it's okay that you do lose some friends during this process. And sometimes it's not because they're not good friends, or it's not because they're not, it's just this, when you get into this, it's either they don't know how to respond or handle what you're going through. And so they don't react properly, and you are in the thick of it. So you don't have energy for like, what's the word? Like nurturing that friendship.
Yeah.
You don't have the energy for it right then. It's, and so if you don't nurture that friendship at that point, it's going to just drop off. And I've said this, and not to be like, I just don't have the energy to kind of like continue to nurture that. I've got a lot going on, and the friends that I've kind of created new groups of friends off of, maybe a lot of them are part of this community, and then I've just got new ones, and sometimes they come and go. They're like chapters in this life. And I think that that's one thing that I've had to learn. Like I've got to be okay mourning those friendships and moving on to new ones. And it is, sometimes I think people hold on to them just because they feel like they have an obligation to.
Yeah.
And getting those new friendships and holding on to them tight, and just being and knowing the good ones are the ones that like you don't have to nurture, and they're still there 6 months later, and you can call them when you need them. Those are, I think, they're the friends that you got to kind of really lean on.
And I think like as far as like friendships, like, being in a marriage is really hard, having a special needs child. And I think like, that's like where,
what are you talking about?
no, but like in general, there's more stuff to like, just more stressors.
Yeah, there's a reason why the divorce rate is so much higher in this world, I think.
America.
Yeah.
So, just to kind of, this has been awesome. Thank you for answering all of our questions and being hang on.
You know what? I just want to say one thing.
Catheter and medical alarms.
I was watching. We were doing our research last night, and so we were watching a few of your other interviews. And one of them, like somebody's phone went off in like the middle of the interview, and I was like, "That's not going to be us. We're going to be. They're pretty professional. We're going to be way more professional." We've had 2 alarms go off this whole thing. I'm like, just blew that out the window.
You can take it out, right?
Yeah. We really appreciate you coming on and, being our first guest. We were really obviously nervous, and it is huge that we appreciate the fact that you were willing to be our guinea pig and
you were our first.
Yes.
You popped our cherry.
Thanks for having me.
Our
so just let everybody know if we'd like you to let everyone know, like, what is Colton working? Are you guys and Colton, like, what's he working on next? What kind of is coming down? I know that things are probably kind of quiet right now with COVID-19, but is there anything that he's working on next that's coming out?
So he has like a thing with Nickelodeon, like
just a little thing with Nickelodeon.
Eddie tried out. Eddie auditioned.
It's a tryout. For Nickelodeon. Yeah. But it got pushed out to July. Yeah. So so I think everything's kind of on hold right now, which I'm okay with. I'm kind of enjoying not being so like all over the place. Because, I work full time, so I can only take off so much time.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like they must be pretty flexible with letting you guys kind of do all that.
I mean, everything's on hold, so I don't know. We're just enjoying our time, and
I think everybody
hanging out.
That's fine. I am.
Sometimes.
It's the best.
Eddie is.
I'm getting so much housework done. All my Legos got built. Oh my God. I'm going to be a Lego master by the end of this whole quarantine. I'm excited.
All the activities.
Yeah. And where can we find you? Like, I say, where can we find you? But it's really Colton, right? Where can we find Colton? Like social media, stuff like that.
Yeah. So he has a Twitter, Colton Robinson. He has Facebook, Colton Robinson as well. And then he has a Instagram. It's Colton Robinson Colton _ official.
I saw him correct you the other day.
He wanted to make sure we get it right. So we'll make sure everybody listening gets it right.
Forgot about the underscores.
They'll find him. Search at Colton Robinson. They'll find him. Official.
Yeah, we don't want that other Colton Robinson without the underscores.
The official.
There's a lot of Colton Robinsons.
It's a popular name.
It's a strong name, That's like Colton Robinson.
Yeah, it came in pretty strong.
One day.
Of course, Colton it wasn't Robinson. Popular, I feel like, when I named them, but I felt like it was that way with my daughter, too. She was like part of the Caden, Jaden, Braden, whatever, like all those
Aiden
names.
Yep.
Aiden.
The Aidens.
Yeah.
The Aidens. Yeah. That was between like 05 and 08.
And then 02.
Yeah, Bella came out during the prime of the Isabellas.
Yeah, she was at Isabella's.
But we had an Annabella.
So everyone assumes that's her name.
Gotta cut that out. Brianna.
We've said her name 100 times. It's fine. It's not a secret. She's all over the social media. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. We really
No, stop. Because you messed up in the very, very beginning. Can you announce who we're interviewing today?
Well, we're going to say that on our intro.
You looked at me like I was crazy, and you just started asking.
No, we're going to say it on our intro.
But you're not going to let her say hi to our guests?
Okay.
So now we're going to have to say a thing, act like we're just getting started, and be like, and so we'd like to introduce Ashley Robinson.
All right, why don't you do it?
No, I don't do that part. I just throw in the little jabs and the little funny comments. That's all I'm good at.
Awkward, no. Okay, fine.
You make it awkward.
Well, you guys stay safe and well, and we'll chat soon.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you later. See you later.
Well, thank you so much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, please make sure you share with a friend and leave a review.
You can find all the resources mentioned in this episode on our Facebook or Instagram on @SpecialAboutSpecial. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.